Okay, I'm throwing my hat into the ring with this one. Evolution. We're claiming, so this is what they're claiming that life started from. Life supposedly went from this to all these different forms. um, and evolution is the progression of the population from these simple creatures into um, all this other stuff. So they're saying that a simple life form like a little bacteria, which is what we supposedly came from, created everything else. Um, DNA is deoxynucleic ribonucleic acid, and it is a so basically each cell is a tiny biochemical machine that carries out a specific task or tasks, working in concert with all the other cells to make life possible. Um, and it is a double helix, so it is this. And actually, if you look it up, Yahweh is written into our to our DNA. But our DNA works to works with other cells to make life possible. And it is made so DNA is made of cytosine, guanine, adenine, and thymine, and there are pairs, and they make life happen. There are 3 billion base pairs for each of the two copies of DNA. A gene is a section of DNA that codes for a particular trait, blood type, color, eyes, and etc. Many genes specify instructions and produce organs and physical traits. So these genes express how we live. So they're saying that a single-celled animal that that only codes for certain things can all of a sudden make complex things over billions of years. That's 100% false. It has never been proven. They're claiming that by mutations and whatever. Mutations are basically like if you've ever played the game phone tag, um, it's basically a mutation's a mess up. It's kind of like you going along and messing up a letter or grammar or something, and it codes for something different. Like it will code, okay, well, it messed up, and so you no longer have 3 arms, but you have 5 arms, um, or you have 6 fingers and it goes to 5. So mutations cannot so the DNA only has specific amounts of information, um, and DNA doesn't all of a sudden, oh well, here's this new bit of information. DNA only can go off of what is already there. It cannot make new information off of old information. A mutation is the taking away of information. And then I'm not going to get into it very much, but you have a dominant and a recessive allele, and the dominant allele takes over and is expressed, and there are co-dominant things, but it's just basically the expression. So, and it's how like what color your hair is, what color your eyes are, and how you are. So these different genes express different things. Um, and they're claiming that natural selection is what helps things go from one thing to another. It's a natural process that results in the survival and reproduction success of individual or groups best adjusted to their environment, and that leads to the perpetuation of genetic qualities that best suited to that particular environment. Natural selection doesn't work. Um, and it's because if natural selection happened, then why would we have mice? Why would we have critters like prey species? If you had natural selection, wouldn't you get rid of these so-called critters that are easy targets like mice and other things? Um, and so, I mean, natural selection doesn't work because if we had natural selection, then why do we keep having things that aren't aren't the like showcase of that animal? Why do you keep having issues like animals with 2 heads, or like Siamese twins and that type of thing? It's like, okay, well, if it's supposed to work the way it should, shouldn't these like things like thorns and thistles that help protect plants. Should there not be things that help protect critters, like maybe a mouse produces a hard covering so it can't get eaten, or they produce a foul odor so they're not eaten, like skunks. But you don't see that. You see animals that um, are eaten, and it's because of it's not evolution, it's adaptations. Evolution says that says that one kind can develop into another kind. So a reptile can go to a mammal, that can go into a bird, that can go into a fish, and so on. And they're claiming that evolution has claimed that a big whale-like animal came out onto the land, like all the stuff happened in the water, and then this critter that we don't have any fossils all of a sudden appeared on land. And the other thing about evolution is they have never been able to find these animals that are the in between species. They've never been able to find. So here is a picture of these fossils. So there's critters that happen, like this guy and that guy and these others. There are forms of animals that they're claiming happened. If you had transitional fossils going from one thing to another, you would have fossils. You would have a whole buttload of fossils going from one thing to another. However, there are no transitional fossils going from one thing to another. You don't have, oh, well, this started not having hair, or this started not having body armor, this started not having tails. You don't have any of that. Like in a frog, I mean, you can see the transition from a polywog or a tadpole into a frog, and that's the same thing here. It's like you would see transitions. It's um, like snakes. How do you get a snake from these other critters? You don't. So there are no transitional fossils. If you look up transitional fossils, they don't exist. They've never existed, and one kind of animal cannot be another type of animal. Like a dog is a dog is a dog, and when Noah put things on his vessel, all these animals didn't have to exist. What happened is one of the kinds had to be on his boat. So one dog, one dinosaur, one um, one horse, one so like one reptile, one, I mean, so they had one of each of the animals. So they didn't have, like right now we see a whole lot of the same animal. Like a bird is a bird, like a hawk is related to like a little sparrow. They're all related because they're all birds. Just like a snake is related to a gator, that's related to a lizard, they're all reptiles. And just like with, and then the same thing with frogs and salamanders. They both start out as little tadpoles, and then they, over time, they change into a terrestrial form. Um, but there are no transitional forms between one and the other. Another one that we see is this one. This has never been proven. If this were to be proven, then why do we not see chimpanzees and other things developing into humans now? We have never seen a evolutionary jump unless we have manipulated the hell out of it, which they're doing now, and they're messing with this now because we have like Planet of the Apes and that type of thing. So yes, but you cannot. We have not been able to prove this at all. What happened is they took what looked like a humanish gorilla or whatever skull, and these other fossils that they have supposedly had. What they don't tell you is they didn't have the complete skeleton. They had like 8 of the bones of. We have something like I think it's like 200 bones in us. So they took something that, and then what they did in order to make the skeleton is they made replica skeletons, and then and so they're claiming this happened. And it's actually, what's funny is if you look at our world, you'll see that the complete opposite happened. In the Apocrypha, the reason why they hid it is because there is a book out there that says Adam and Eve were very broad and very big. they were like a lot bigger and taller than they are now. And if you look at like Question Antiquity and all these others, you'll see that there were giants on the land, and that we were much bigger, and the land was much bigger. I mean, look at the petrified forest and the redwoods. These are basically ancient indicators that land was much bigger. There is also the potential, if you look at the Devil's Tower, does that not look like the stump of a great big tree? There's a lot of evidence out there. If you look up the different, like if you look at Question Antiquity and these other things and look up giants and all this, you'll find pictures of giants. So, because what it says in Enoch is it says that that the angels came down and slept with women and they created giants. So this goes completely out the window. And actually, if you look up, like when Moses went into the land of Canaan, he said that he found giants, and that is what Exodus. Yeah, it's in Exodus. I think Exodus 12. And but if you look up Amorites and Canaanites, you'll see that they were of giant stature. They were not small. And so we have actually shrunk. We have not gotten bigger. We've gotten smaller. And they have fed us a whole bunch of lies. So this theory that we evolved from a chimpanzee is completely hogwash. We were formed by God, and we had all the necessary stuff to keep going. It is true that the angels kind of guided us, and that the fallen ones taught humans how to use weapons, how to use the land, where to find different resources to make the land work. So, so this theory that we evolved from chimpanzees is completely hogwash. And supposedly according to the DNA evidence, what they did is they took the helical structure of DNA, and they they compared supposedly in of a chimpanzee and a human, and supposedly we're like 98 or 99% like them. What they forgot to tell you is there are codes in there, that there are well, supposedly pieces of bad DNA that they took out. So when you add all that DNA and add all these other pieces, like the entire strand of DNA and the entire strand of chimpanzee, we are like, I don't know what the number is because they keep switching it, but it's like 70 or 80% like the chimpanzee. And if you were God, I mean, you would take a form and then just make it differently. Because yes, there are traits that look similar. I mean, there are like in a bat wing. I mean, those are basically long fingers that are going down the wing of a bat. If you look at a whale, I mean, what happened is there are bone projections into the fin of a whale, but then it has this um, stuff that goes, the membrane that goes between, just like a duck. If you look at a duck, it has webbing between the fingers. And there are humans that actually have had, because I remember going to camp, and there were people that have had webbing between their fingers. So it is out there. But God used he is a great God, and he uses different things, and he just was used different forms in order to make evolution. Um, so um, uh, so mutations don't increase info; they decrease it. Natural selection doesn't make sense because of prey species, not conservative or creative. Natural selection, I mean, there isn't natural selection. What happens is you have like the one that gets thrown out there is the bill and the difference of birds, and they call it evolution. Evolution is going from one kind to another. These birds are all one kind, and that's what they don't say. Their bills are different because it's adaptation. You're adapting to what the resources provide. So, because like in a bill of a hawk, where it's tearing into an animal, you're going to have the piercing part where it can tap into the animal flesh and rip it apart, and have the talons and whatever. But if you have another seed eater, what you're going to have is a pointy end, so it can take that seed and then crack that seed open and eat it. And then you have shell crackers that it's a lot more stiff and they can crack the seed open. Think of like a nutcracker, where it basically just cracks that nut open in order to get to the seed inside. Or like a fruit eater. A fruit eater doesn't really need a hard bill, but it just needs a bill that can just rip into flesh. So you're going to have a very different type of bill, and that's what Darwin saw. Um, and Darwin knew, and actually, if you read into his theory of evolution, he knew that complexity couldn't have come by chance. Complexity doesn't come by chance. Um, we are so complex with the DNA, and if and understanding that genes are what make things go one way. These are my notes on my DNA. If bacteria made other critters, they would have to have new genetic instruction. Every stage has to be fully functional, so some small mutation would not do this. So how do we have in between stages or functions? um, you cannot have something that's not fully functional. Like you can't have, like imagine going from these other forms and not having. Okay, well this doesn't have a skin, or this has this, like a jellyfish. Jellyfish are very gelatinous, and um, there's a lot of stingers, a lot of other things, and it's I've never seen a in between species between a jellyfish and something else. Um, and a mutation is an alteration of genetic material, the genome of a cell, of a living organism, of a virus that is more or less permanent and that can be transmitted to the cell, viruses, or descendants. Um, all these supposed things that you're seeing are adaptations. So you're seeing an adaptation of the color, you're seeing an adaptation of dealing with desert environment. There are a whole lot of adaptations with plant cells, like plants. Like in eastern, plants have these big leaves, but out here in the west you have cacti. Cacti don't really have leaves, they have these small little leaves, and it's so the plants don't lose the water and other things. Um, and there are point mutations and other mutations that can happen, and these mutations actually cause disease. Mutations of your body, like if your cell mutates and gets out of control, that's what causes cancer. So mutations really can't happen. Um, and it's actually a deleting. It's like you going along, and so you're reading through. I mean, it's just like me reading through and missing a point and getting a complete different interpretation. Oh, well, the Bible is a great example. So like you can read through the Bible and miss points or take certain words out, which is what the devil has done, and get a completely different explanation of what's going on. And so that's what the devil has done. He's deleted words out of the Bible in order to get a whole different way, whatever. And so we're not seeing the entire picture. We have seen translated versions, which have been they're the same as the Dead Sea Scrolls. So I'm not saying that it has. I'm just saying that our words have been manipulated, and the Hebrew language is very complex. But it's very much like our DNA. DNA is very complex, and if you change or alter it in any way, if like the pattern of of the four of the four things are changed, then there's a whole new outcome. And it's just like that whole new substance that just came into our body that they were wanting us to get. It is messing with the mRNA. So what happens is okay, let's see if I can do this. So you start out with a single strand of DNA, and then what happens is it's getting translated by a translation RNA, and then you have the mRNA, which takes that message, oops, and then it goes down here, and it takes that message to another part of the DNA, and then it's like rRNA, But it takes that message and it takes it down here. But when something comes in that claims to be so what they have done is they have taken this portion and they can put in whatever message they want into our genetic code and completely alter the outcome of what is being interpreted. So if you mess up this part, the messenger part, it's just like with the word of God. If you take the message of the original Bible and you alter it, it has a completely different outcome. And it's one, and that is why a lot of people believe in like a round ball that it's going through space. It's like we have taken the original message that God gave us and that has been passed down, and that message has been altered in one way or another in order to form this new outcome. And this was done trying to get rid of of God. If you realize that how complex and everything is, then you would realize, oh well, something along in here has been changed. And it's just like with DNA. It's like you can't get everything else from DNA. So let's see. So vast majority of bad effects have come from mutations. So like Siamese twins, two heads, additional appendages. Genetic code is specific for organisms and can't make a different type of organism. You can't go from a simple single celled, not very complex organism to a, because it's saying that it's created amoeba that created this other life form that created blah blah blah, or maybe an amoeba created a jellyfish that created this. That doesn't work, and it's never been proven, because those, if we had these different transitory fossils, you would see them in the fossil record, and you do not see that. Um, and what evolution is saying is this new information somehow got in and made a whole new organism and made a complex organism. And any person that that has been in science knows that you can't go from simple to complex. You can't take the information of a bacteria and all of a sudden create um, a bird or a whatever over billions of years. And the thing is their theory completely breaks down when you realize that this world is not as has not been around as long as they're claiming, because they're claiming that, oh well, it took anything could have happened over billions of years. Well, it our world is only several thousand years old. It doesn't make sense. And okay, here's another tangent for you. It doesn't make sense if you look at it. Supposedly dinosaurs lived millions of years ago. Well, then how is their flesh still in their bones? If there were billions of years old, all stuff calcifies and whatever, and would not be flesh. They have found living fragments of DNA in dinosaurs, and what they have done is they've killed off anyone that has said this, and those bones have mysteriously disappeared. And also carbon dating. What they also don't tell you is all these different ways of dating only go back certain amounts of time. Um, Carbon only lasts, I think its half life is like what, like 7, 10,000 years. So it can't last more than like 20, 30,000 years. But they're finding carbon in everything, which is saying that carbon that that what we have been told is completely different. And Darwin argued that given enough time, we could create new types of animals, and that's their thing. In our way of looking at things, even though we don't see the big picture, we think that because what we're doing is we're taking our information and seeing how things are going on right now. What they're not telling you is before Noah's flood, life existed and it was much greater and bigger. If you look around, you'll see evidence. You'll see giants. They're actually footprints next to dinosaur footprints. You can't have that if, I mean, humans and dinosaurs lived at the same time. Um, so all these things lived at the same time. So And it says lab observations of natural selection confirm that it only changes relative abundance of certain already existing characteristics and doesn't create new ones. We're looking at segments of time and not a whole long time. Because back in the olden days, there was more oxygen, and they've actually proven this. The elements that were there was more oxygen and more stuff because with more oxygen and more elements of those resources, bodies can be bigger. If you look at Australia, I mean, I remember going to Australia and they talked about megafauna. So there were kangaroos that were 30 and 40. I mean, I don't remember how big they were. But if you look up megafauna of Australia, you'll find that they were lots bigger. I mean, just look at the elephants that we used to have here. I mean, we had mammoths and mastodons that were these big elephants, and they were way bigger than it's like the elephants that we have today are like half the size of what used to be. So we can see that our world is way different than used to be. Um, and with the flood and all that, what happened is it went very quickly. Like with a flood, it says that the mountain or the the fountains of the great deep burst open, and it. If you look in the Apocrypha, you'll also find how many different doors and whatever. We don't know how big these openings were. They could have been the size of the U.S. They could have been the size of Rhode Island. We don't know. Um, we can only guess and wait until that time. But what I'm trying to get at is the what we have seen and what has happened in the past are two different things. And you're also talking about a God who can do anything he wants. He can move the entire planet off of its axis. And what you're going to see in the time of tribulation is earthquakes that are not on the Richter scale. They're going to be so far off the Richter scale that everything is going to change. You're going to see these mountains crumble like sand. You're going to see things and feel things that you've never seen before. Because we're taking a look at a picture that is only several thousand years old. And what we're trying to do is, with evolution and with all these processes, is take what the way we have seen things for several thousand years and apply it to something that took maybe longer. But God, in His Word, says it took a day to form the different things, and it took 6 days to create the entire Earth and everything in it. And that's what you see. If you look at the fossil record, you'll see that all of a sudden all these animals appeared all at once, and and the fossil record doesn't show that. It shows that it's like, okay, everything just moved along, and then all of a sudden you have this explosion of critters, and you can't have an explosion unless you have a God that created it. Um, so there's let's see. Um, so what happened is you had the theory started with Lamarck and their early years in 19th century. So and then you had not Albert, Darwin and Alfred Wallace made the theory of evolution in 1858, and it was a supposition or a system of ideas intended to explain something. Um, so he made this theory, and it was pushed as fact. And a theory is just that. A theory cannot be proven. In this theory, there are a lot of holes in it, and they keep pushing it because if you saw the truth, then their whole house of cards falls down. And God talks about this. It says if you don't have a strong foundation, everything crumbles. And so all these theories are based upon the original foundation of a very shaky theory that doesn't exist. Um, so, in radioactive dating assumes that amounts of parent material and daughter isotopes can accurately be estimated, assuming a closed system. We don't live in a closed system. And everything is moving. A closed system means that there's no other variables, there's no changes of oxygen or environmental conditions, and we know for a fact this has changed. Before Noah, there was no rain. Well, supposedly no rain. There was only dew. So there was an addition of rain and wind and hail and all this stuff that started happening after Noah. So we know that the system has changed. We also know, um, and the other thing is when an eruption happens and when they try to estimate how old that material is, they're when they do the radioactive dating, yes, all those isotopes and things that potentially um, have more things in them, if they all come out of the earth as the same thing. I mean, magma and everything else has all these elements mixing around in it, and the possibility of making all types of rocks. I mean, lava has made obsidian, which has also made diamonds, which has also made lava rocks, and all these supposed things that came out of the ground at the same time are all over the map. Some of them are like 20, I'm just throwing numbers out there, but like 20 million years old and 40 billion years old. And I mean, so they're all coming out of the same place at the same time. So they're all getting marked as different because they're a different material, but they all come out at the same time. And we can find out with recent eruptions like Mount St. Helens that blew its top recently, and they're carbon dating it, and their carbon dating says that these are already millions of years old when we know that they just came out of the ground, and we're finding that with a lot of eruptions. Um, and there are also multiple dates for the same rock, and these aren't. If you look at the stats of these numbers, you can find out that the dates for the rock are all over the place. Like one says 40 million years old, and another one says 5 million years old, and I mean these estimates are not statistically probable. I mean, any statistician knows that when you have numbers that far out there, that the numbers are off. These estimates for having the rock is completely bogus. Um, so heavier isotopes consistently give older ages than lighter isotopes for the same rock, and that's what I was trying to get at. So there are different isotopes in the rock, and these different isotopes give off different ages, and it's just basically and it's the same rock, but they give off different ages. So yeah, so there you go. Magma is a mix of many rocks isotopes that come out. Evolution assumes life from non-life, which Pasteur disproved, and this is also known as chemical evolution. Scientific method can only test existing data. So yes, we're looking at a system, like I said, that we're looking at a system that has existed for 6,000 years, um, and God made it. And what the devil has tried to do is come up with theories and plausible explanations for things that have happened. Um, and what he has tried to do, and he's done a darn good job of it, is make you think that there is no God, that he didn't create things, because if God created things and we had ways of looking at these different things, then the devil would have no chance. But the devil has come up with plausible, well, these aren't really plausible. If you really look into it, these aren't plausible. These are completely out of his butt ways of looking at things. So, so there's the theory of evolution in DNA. It did not happen like they are claiming. There are no transitory fossils. The dating, like I showed, are different isotopes. Um, I mean, it's just like if I took all these clothes and if all of these came out of a certain place and they blew up out of the ground, I mean, these are all differently made. And if I mean, it's just like with DNA and all that stuff. It's hocus pocus. There is a God. He created all of it in 6 days. And we know that because of the Bible. And the devil does not want you to believe that. He wants you to believe in all these other theories. In these laws and theories, a law is, and any science person, I spent, let's see, 6 years in college and master's degree going through science related stuff. My background is wildlife biology. And so I spent many labs and many things and was told all this hocus pocus. Um, And the thing is there are good things that are later, like the laws of thermodynamics and all these others. I mean, yes, there are some good theories and whatever. So this is not saying that there aren't good scientific things that are out there. It's just saying that the foundation of evolutionary stuff and the Big Bang and all this doesn't exist. But if you really look into the complexity and how science works and how these cells and all these things work together and how the DNA made the cells and made the genomes and all this other stuff, you see the hand of God. And if you can tell me, if you can look at our DNA that comes out of us and the complexity that we have with each individual cell of our body and how everything functions and how and all that, um, and somehow we just managed to come out of bacteria that are these small little single-celled things that you can only see under a microscope. If that supposedly formed us, um, no, that doesn't happen. So thank you for joining me, but that's I know I didn't have. I mean, I this is what I have found and what I know. So evolution is crap. There are no transitory fossils. Life as we know it happened at a much rapid pace. God created it, um, and there is a heaven and hell. And the devil doesn't want you to know that. He wants all of us to go bye bye. And his main thing is all of us to go the same way. He already knows he's defeated. He already knows that he's going to lose. And the only thing that keeps him going is trying to destroy all of us. He wants each and every one of us to be destroyed. He wants to keep coming up with plausible or possible reasons why certain things happen the way they do. And if you really look into what the original stuff is, you'll realize that he's full of crap. So thank you for joining me. God bless you all, and hopefully this will help you.